With that down, let's move into our third main topic today, shall we? And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by David Greggs. And David Greggs writes, "Hello, John and Rob. We all know that Tom Holland has traditionally been a bit of a blabbermouth when it comes to revealing too much about Marvel movies. Yes, he has. But I just read a story that he is now claiming he actually doesn't know if Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire are in Spider-Man 3 or not. Do you think Marvel is being hyper cautious with Holland and not letting him know? Or do you think he's lying about knowing? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, traditionally, it is the kind of a running joke, especially around MCU fan circles, that Tom Holland, he runs his mouth a little bit, Rob. He's been known to run his mouth a bit.
No.
Saying some things he probably shouldn't say now and again. We've seen him doing interviews with co-stars in Marvel movies where he says something and the co-star looks at him like, what are you doing, kid? Right? So this been a bit of a joke. So this is coming up right now because Tom Holland was just recently asked specifically and directly about, what, are Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in there? Like everybody's talking about this, blah, 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 blah. And this is what he had to say. He said, "Beats me. I don't know. If they are, they haven't told me. That would be something that Marvel would do. I watch the film and be like, so that's who the tennis ball was." Now, let's just read that again. "It beats me. I don't know. If they are, they haven't told me yet. That would be something that Marvel would do. I watch the film and be like, so that's who that tennis ball was." Now, just what the hell is he talking about, a tennis ball? Just so you're aware. On a lot of these movies, when you're going to have a lot of CGI, what they'll often do is they'll have like things with tennis balls on them that act as markers for the visual effects later on. For example, I was on set of the first Transformers movie during the big battle scene in the streets between the Autobots and Decepticons. And I was there when they filmed that. And they had a whole bunch of crew as they had all these extras running up and down the street screaming, "Ah!" and cars overturning and all that kind of stuff. They had a bunch of these guys running up and down the street with these 20-foot poles with tennis balls on them running around. And so give me that. Sometimes they call the tennis balls a ping pong ball types things that CGI actors will wear, things like that. But that when you hear him say, that's who was in the tennis balls, that's probably what he's referring to. Rob, there's a couple of possibilities here. There's a couple of possibilities. Number one, first possibility here is Tom Holland has learned to shut his mouth and not leak spoilers. And he's just lying and saying, "I don't know." And just literally saying, "I don't know," when really he does. I mean, I think that's probably the most likely situation here. He does know if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in this. I personally think they are, although it has to be mentioned that it has not in any way, shape, or form been confirmed by anything official that they are, but I think they are. And I think Tom Holland knows if they are or not. And he's just saying, "I don't know, blah, blah, blah." However, to play devil's advocate, specifically look at something he says here. He says, "Beats me. I don't know if they are. They haven't told me yet. That would be something that Marvel would do. I watched the film and be like, so that's who the tennis balls were." There is a possibility here, Rob. I would contend that there is a possibility here because you know that I believe Maguire and Garfield are going to be in it, but I also believe their roles are going to be small. I don't believe they're going to be in like 20 minutes of screen time. I think their roles are going to be relatively small. So I believe there is a possibility here that instead of Tom Holland being the one who learned his lesson, it may have been Marvel that learned their lesson. Don't tell this kid anything, or don't tell this kid things that we don't want to have done. And if Maguire and Garfield, all relatively small things, it is very possible they could have done it without him knowing. Again, I think the first option is the most likely. I think he does know and he's just playing coy. He's learning the business a little bit better. But you can't ignore the fact that it is what he said. And there is a possibility, because it does sound like something Disney would do. Mark Ruffalo has talked about times that there were things in the movies he was in with MCU where he didn't know what it was going to be. So maybe there's something to that. Again, I think it's more likely that he knows and he's just not saying. Anyway, Rob, you read these comments from Tom Holland. What do you think?
I think he's learned his lesson, but he probably said, "Listen, I'm a chatterbox. Sometimes I can't help myself. Give me something to say. Give me my lines. So they gave him his lines. And I think he's had this part written for him, like all great actors, and he's saying it back to the world.
And it's just that. And where are you at right now on Garfield and Maguire? Do you think at this point they are? Do you still got to see some more evidence? I don't know. What are you thinking right now?
Well, the way things are going, if God himself showed up in a Marvel Cinematic Universe production, I would not be surprised. I mean, it is just. I think that we now live in a world where the MCU has established itself as just being where can anybody have more fun than the MCU? It's for audiences, for actors. I mean, Matt Damon shows up in a cameo at the beginning of Thor Ragnarok. Who saw that coming?
And Sam Neill. Sam Neill,
who knows? And it's just that we live in a world where that can happen. And if people like Matt Damon are willing to show up for a wacky comedic bit in a Thor film, I wouldn't put it when you're dealing with a ripped open reality and a multiverse, and especially after people get to see the Spider-Man, multiverse animated film that wins an Oscar. Why wouldn't you? What else is Tobey Maguire doing? If someone calls him up and says, "Yo, bro, can you come down here for a couple of days? We'll bring you out to Atlanta, have some good food, meet some good peeps, and we'll pay you to don the Spider-Man outfit again." What's he going to say? No?
I suppose. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? I personally think there are two options here. Number one, that he's being facetious. He does know, and he's learned his lesson. Number two, he might be telling the truth. Maybe, I guess. I lean towards one. Maybe there's a third option that I'm not considering. What do you guys think about that? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.